we're standing in front of a paradigm shift. The thing is that we try to fix things on a practice level, and that is not working. We need to change the underlying assumptions on how you run a company, the management assumptions. Being agile, flexible, fast moving is one of the main and important assumptions behind the new management model. When we have this new set of assumptions, we see a new development of concepts, and those are then leading to new practices. And one way of speeding up the transformation of companies is, of course, to provide examples of those new management concepts in the form of totally new holistic management models that can show us how this can be done from a holistic perspective, from a total organization and enterprise level perspective. It's interesting to go back and just study the history. I'm a nerd in history of management innovation, and of course I find this very interesting. I hope you will too. I think you will find a lot of things here that you recognize. You recognize bureaucracy, and that was the belief in the 1905, and it was presented by Max Weber. I think you recognize the specialization of labor and work. It was presented by Taylor in the beginning of the 1900s. I think you recognize the importance of management and the management duties of planning, organizing, staffing, and controlling that was presented by Henry Fayol in 1929. We're talking a long time ago. Okay, you recognize, I think, human relations in 1932. Now we started focusing on the human being, that human beings are motivated by other things, by being seen, by being recognized, by being part, by being involved. And then we have other very interesting theories like system theory. Modern theory by Peter Drucker is usually called the father behind modern theory, where we start to discuss management by objectives, decentralization of decision power. And then we get even more things like chaos theory, when everything is becoming so complex, so we cannot manage by having a lot of instructions anymore and clear roles and very bureaucratic organization. It does not work anymore. I call the new modern theory of management the internet theory of management, because right now we are in a digital age, and the digital technology is just smashing everything we know as we know it, and is disrupting everything: marketing, sales, HR, how we think about organization design, and you name it. As an effect of those new theories, and of course they are riding on each other, they are packaged together. What we are seeing now as concept, we see TQM, for example, that was riding on the human relation and having blue collar workers as part of problem solving on the workshop floor. We see Lean, we see Agile Manifesto, of course, in 2001. We also see open innovation, that is the forefronter for the new thing of working with ecosystem. And we see other things coming up. And right now, it's very hot to talk about business ecosystem as the new way of working. Those are concepts that are as an effect of the new theory. I'm going to jump over this, but there is a number of new management principles, and I'm coming back to those. What was interesting is that the new management models, that was an effect of those new belief set, those new principles of how to run the company, how to run an organization, was actually first seen in Silicon Valley, if you believe the research. Already in 1992, Barami from Berkeley University said there is an emerging flexible enterprise in California, Silicon Valley. These firms are at the forefront of experiencing the challenges of the information era. So already here we see a new animal coming. It's a new form of enterprise management, which is much more flat, much more decentralized, much more agile, much more fast running, and absolutely enabled by information technology. So again, we see management innovation and technology innovation go hand by hand. Today, we have a number of companies that you are maybe very familiar with. Tesla Motors, and Tesla is usually known as an example also in the agile sector, I guess, because they are promoting and they are applying a lot of those principles as a natural part of their management of the firm. Google is another example that I wrote about in 2014 when I launched a book about Google just before Jonathan Rosenberg and Eric Smith came out with their book about Google. And what I'm going to describe to you today is a Chinese company, Haier. So with this, you can see, without mentioning all companies that are out there that have been actually working as a role models, that we don't just have the companies that are new and are born into this, but also we have some well-established companies, industry companies that have been able to transform themselves. And Haier has spent over 2 decades, 20 years, to evolve and transform the company from an industrial manufacturing company selling hardware into an internet platform-based company. Because of those role models, we now see an increasing pace for other companies to learn, because now they don't have to just go out there in the black hole and try to find a solution. There are solutions, there are blueprints, there are examples, and they can learn from those, and they can use those as North Stars to navigate the transformation. One company that only in 4 years transformed their company was GE Appliances, but there are others. Fujitsu Europe has been doing a very interesting transformation journey and see a absolutely tremendous result from that. Bosch Power Tools is another one. Buurtzorg is a very interesting case from the Netherlands. And I describe primarily the transformation of GE Appliances in a new book coming out now in a month, and will be found on Amazon, called The Leadership for a Digital World. If we stay with GE Appliances, that is the case for today's session. The company was in 2016 more or less dying. This is their own words. We were slowly dying. GE was the owner and the parent of a company and had been using GEA for a long time as a cash cow. They wanted to have a great profit and a low risk in the company to be a short cash cow bringing in money to the group. As a result, the company was very slowly growing, if at all. The focus was totally internally focused, and it was on efficiency. It was very risk adverse, and it was tremendously bureaucratic and very top-down command control leadership. In this environment, there was no innovation done, and it was not asked for at all. The only thing that was asked for was to make sure that the profit margin was coming in. In 2016, GE Appliances was bought by Chinese RenDanHeyi and took over the ownership after GE. With that, it came in a new management paradigm, a new set of belief, because Haier had been going through their own transformation for 20 years and knew that the way that the white goods company were run was old-fashioned and could not sustain. Their model for their new management model, they called it the RenDanHeyi model. And Ren stands for the people, Dan is the goal, objective, which are the users, and HeYi is the link between the people and the need of the users. RenDanHeyi. And this concept show the way. And in fact, if you go down to the principle of RenDanHeyi, there are 6 elements. 1, there should be a 0 distance to the users. If there are a lot of barriers between the employees and the users, get rid of them. Because if there are barriers between, how will you know what the user needs, and how can you ensure a great, absolute marvelous user experience? With digital technology, that was possible. Second, go from bureaucracy to networked organization. Network organization means a decentralized structure, decentralization of decision power. 3, go from employees to entrepreneurs. They don't even use the word employees anymore. It does not exist. They talk about their people as entrepreneurs. And everyone are supposed to be an entrepreneur and can start their own company more or less whenever they have a good idea and are willing to do so. Right now, the group of HeYi has over 4,000 projects or startup companies going on in the same time. 4, pay by user. This means that compensation-wise, the people should be paid aligned with what they actually contribute as value to the users. It should be mirrored, value contribution and payment reimbursement. 5th, from linear to non-linear management. A linear management is the typical top-down command control bureaucratic leadership, telling the workers what to do, what not to do. A lot of instructions, follow up, control. And non-linear management in their world is more or less no management at all. Because management, if you think about it, planning, organizing, staffing, controlling can be actually done by the group itself. And if there are management, it should support the businesses to succeed and to grow. And lastly, ecosystem as a strategy. The open innovation as a theory is here to stay. The closed system is not. So ecosystem as a strategy, they work with ecosystem for innovation and for very efficient R&D. They work with ecosystem to increase the share of user needs. And it's no possibility that one single company can cover all the needs of the users, but together in an ecosystem with partners, you can. And you can create lifetime users. So they use those principles and they interpreted them one by one. And this is important as part of a transformation. And also important was that the CEO was totally behind it. And he was in 2017 set as a CEO before he was the VP of technology. When he got the mandate as a CEO and had learned about the new philosophy of RenDanHeyi, he saw a match between his own frustration, his own assumptions about how a company should be run with this new philosophy, and he decided to adopt it. The first phase in 2017 to 2020, they called the micro enterprise phase. In a very simple way, you can say that the micro enterprise phase was to create a decentralized network organization themselves. So they started from within and started to act in a way that they then needed to act on the market. When they were done with that phase, they started the next phase in 2020, and they called that the ecosystem phase. This is including external partners. And they are right now in that phase. So let's go into the first phase and see what they did. I'm sorry for if this is hard to read. So as you can see here, and this is according to the company themselves, management principle wise, they went from thinking about a corporation to a platform. The platform had something they call micro enterprises. They turned every product line into its own end-to-end accountability and responsibility with its own P&L. That is a micro enterprise and a business. So the product line became their own businesses, and they started with 4. Today, there are many more, because this new way of working also allowed them to add on new businesses. Because management, and here we talk about, for example, the CEO's role, changed to vision and leadership, not to control. So suddenly it gave the CEO and also the senior leaders time to look into the future and understand where to grow and work on the future rather than the internal efficiency and quality and all operational issues. That is typically the focus still of many, many management teams out there. They went from hierarchy to micro enterprises, and I just tried to explain that it's like businesses within the business with end-to-end accountability and its own profit and loss. They went from top-down order to empowerment, and they went to from corporate pay to user pay. On the culture part, they stopped thinking about employee and wanted to think about the employee as entrepreneurs. They went from corporate is first to user is first. Today, they hear that users are the boss. The managers are not the boss. Users are the boss. If you have to prioritize something, you need to prioritize your users. They are the boss. Play not to lose, and instead do play to win. They decided to be number 1 on the North American continent. React to competition was the old thing, and now they lead competition. They set the bar. They lead the industry. And they went from risk adverse to embrace opportunities. So today they have innovated much more than what they have been doing for decades before. According to the company itself, and this is explained in the book as well, much more in detail, the success factors were 4 things. Of course, oversimplified. Leadership, the CEO went from center control to enable. The ME leaders that now are the new business owners, the old product leaders, they went from order followers to empowered leaders. And of course, this was not over the night. This is not something happening over the night. This is a behavior change, a culture transformation, and a change in behavior. And it takes time, but it went pretty fast for this company because of the consistency from the CEO that this had to be done. Organization-wise, they went from product lines and functions that competed. So, for example, manufacturing, purchasing, heavy, powerful functions were usually competing about resources and decision power with the product lines that were developing the new products for the users. That is no more. Today, they have micro enterprises and platform, and they collaborate. The old production and sourcing departments and also legal, sales, marketing became platforms supporting the new businesses that fronting the customer and the user. Everything in the organization had to be aligned according to user and user needs. The culture was now to raise the bar, to take accountability, be proactive, also be very transparent, and trust the people, which is key here. And alignment, as I said, you align your whole organization. And one important part of that is also to change the compensation model, that you earn according to what you actually deliver on all levels. The performance was absolutely amazing. And this is for you that know Edgar Schein, Professor Edgar Schein, the father behind corporate culture. I have had the honor to work with him a little bit. And he said when he was reading the case of GE Appliances that I'm intrigued how GEA was able to get the present set of bosses to behave according to McGregor's Y theory. They had to make a massive change in their own daily behavior, and it will be important to understand how GA could accomplish that. And that is what we have tried to code, how they actually did it. And Edgar Schein's own model that you might know about, how he defined culture, is a great framework that can help you transform an enterprise. So in 2021, GEA was the fastest growing appliance company in the US. They won the highly regarded recognition as a smart home appliance company for 4 consecutive years, and they have been certified as the best place to work by its own employees. And with that, I want to say thank you, and I have some more minutes if anyone wants to ask questions. And those are my books. If you, for any reason, would like to learn more about the Silicon Valley model of management, or what China is doing, or this case of GEA.